Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for the third and final part of the Q&As today. So let me get my hat on and let's get over to this first question. All right. Jason, I seem to have a difficult time nailing down my squat stance every time. If I manage to get it right, I just dominate the set, but if I go just a little bit too wide or too narrow, it just becomes a mess. I lose tightness, bounce out of the bottom, etc. Any advice to make getting in your right stance every time easier? Thanks. Yeah, brother, what I'm going to recommend you do is, again, this is a very individual thing. It's not a bad thing for you to learn to train with a couple different stances, by the way. But for some people, that's hard to do. You're going to be, it sounds like you're fairly new to squatting. So what I'm going to recommend is that you get a friend or partner when you find that ideal stance, do some test reps to see if it's perfect, come over and measure the width of your feet, and maybe put some tape down when you go to squat. Till you get used to doing it and you get it right, maybe get some tape to where you can find the width of the front of your feet and your heels and put a couple pieces of tape to put your feet over when you squat and walk it out to there, and you're going to find that a lot easier to be consistent. So that's something that you could do there until you get used to the fact of being able to look down and just get into a natural stance. Now, a lot of it, what you're going to find is a lot of times people do too complicated of a walkout. What I'm going to recommend is that you practice doing your walkout a little bit better, so that you get your walkout down to 3 steps, meaning left foot back one, right foot back one, and the right one on the second step should go into your position and then bring the left one back. So once you get practiced at finding your right stance and you get your walkout down to minimizing steps, you're eventually going to go right into your natural groove on that. And that takes some work and it takes some time, but it is something that will happen over time if you do that right. But yeah, at first you might need to do the actual tape thing just to kind of get it dialed in where you need it and where you want it. And then you will learn to be more visually cued, and then you'll learn to find it by feel eventually. And again, a lot of that has to do with minimizing your walkout steps out of the rack. Like I said, it should be no more than 3 total steps involved with a perfect walkout. And again, you'll eventually learn to do that by feel once you learn to do it by eyesight and get it kind of cued in. And learn to feel what that feels like when you're in that perfect stance for yourself, once you get it done with tape and with measuring. All right, next question. Hey Jason, you're always telling to make your arms grow. You should progress on your big movements such as bench, rows, pull-ups, chin-ups. My bench went up by 7.5 kilograms. My pull-up went up from 8 with body weight to 8 with a 10 kilogram plate. My T-bar rows went up 15 kilos, and I'm currently curling 17.5 kilogram dumbbells for the same reps as 12.5 kilo ones before. I've gained 3 kilos in the past 3 months, yet my arms still remain the exact same size measured. How come? All right, well, if every single exercise has gotten stronger, then you know that your arms have grown. All right, so stop and think about that. All of your big movements have gone up measurably, not enormously, but measurably, and your curls themselves have increased. You've increased your curl strength by 30% for the same number of reps, right? About 30%, is that close? 35? Just going off of a guess, just looking at your numbers. So that's after doing your other movements. So you're telling me you've gone from doing chin-ups to slightly weighted chin-ups, and then you're doing curls afterwards, and your curls are stronger? Well, your biceps have grown. Biceps have absolutely grown. The reason you don't think your biceps have grown is because of user error. User error, meaning the tape measure on there. You'd be surprised. It's very easy for people measuring their own arms to get it off by a ½ inch or an inch. So until you get someone who comes over and consistently measures your arms for you externally, doing it the same way in the exact same spot every time, it could be that you're measuring a slightly different part of your arm when you're measuring yourself, and it could be off up to an inch. It's totally possible. The other thing to remember, arms are small muscles. They don't grow fast. 3 kilograms of body weight is a decent amount, but it's not an enormous change. I mean, your arms aren't going to grow massively from small amounts of muscle growth. Let's be honest. And people have these standards set on what they consider to be decent arm growth or big arms based on guys who are using lots of gear usually, all right? Guys who are using a lot of gear, and oftentimes guys who are doing site enhancement. A lot of YouTubers out there even, who a lot of people think might even be natural, actually do site injections in their arms. So put that in perspective when you start thinking about comparing your arms to other people. Your arms probably grew a little bit. You know they have, because there's no way a muscle doesn't grow when you've gone up in strength on all of your lifts, right? I mean, everything from your chin-ups to your curls have gotten measurably stronger. Well, that should facilitate growth. There's no way they haven't grown internally. It's just a measurement thing going on with you. And remember, it's going to be a small change. It's just going to be a small change in size. And if anything, maybe your arms aren't growing as much because you don't have a really peaky bicep, and some people's bicep shape makes it bigger on the measurement without adding as much mass. So if you're one of those guys, that could be the case. You're not going to see big jumps in the size of the peak because you don't have a real high peak to the bicep. If you wanted your arm measurement to go up from there, maybe do more tricep work, because it could be that maybe your biceps have done most of the growing and your triceps haven't grown as much. Get stronger on your weighted dips, get stronger on your pressing, and see what happens on that next set of measurements. Just putting it out there. All right, next question. Is it still considered progression if you can't lift the same weight as many times in one set as the previous workout, so you add a set to bring the total number of reps higher than said previous workout? For example, one is able to lift 300 pounds for 3 sets of 8 in one workout, but could only manage to lift 300 pounds for sets of 7 the next time, so they add a 4th set to get the total reps to over 24. All right, brother, a couple things going on here. Number one, yes, that is progression because you've added workload. But what you're doing is you're trying to push past a stall and regression by adding volume, and that might work. That might work, but the other question becomes, what are you doing with your training when you're losing reps like that? Meaning, I've got to wonder where you're at in terms of your progression, like how many years you've been lifting. Are you a novice, late novice, intermediate, advanced lifter? But if you're attempting to do something stronger, you've missed something in your recovery curve. Meaning, if your 3 sets of 8 with one weight turns down to 3 sets of 7 and you can't do more than 7 reps with a weight you've previously been doing sets of 8 with, there's something going on with your programming, like your workload versus your recovery and your frequency. You've got something dialed in wrong. You're clearly training it again too frequently, or you're waiting too long to train it again, or you might need a lighter work in between. You're at a point to where you're regressing between workouts, which means either you're not recovering enough, or you're not doing. You're going to need to either add light work in between, or you're right up at the point where you need a deload. You may have overreached to the point to where you're not recovering workout to workout anymore, and that's going to be problematic. That's something that you need to work on. Rather than try to keep pushing through by adding more progression, it might be time to reassess your actual training programming itself if you're losing strength measurably like that. And I understand that strength comes in ebbs and flows, but the problem is that you went to attempt something heavier and you're not strong enough. You're not strong enough to maintain the strength, and it would be fine if you programmed a lighter day, because I do that. I run waves, like with my deadlift and stuff. I sometimes will go for an all-out set, and I'll wait 5 or 6 weeks before I try to beat that again, or even try to match it. You know, like there's times where I've come in with 500 pounds and done 6 reps, and then I waited a whole month before I tried to do 6 or 7 reps again. So I would come in and do sets of 5. And then I will come in after a month or 5 weeks or whatever, when I know that my strength is good, I've had a good meal the night before, come in and train, and bam, hit that 7th rep with 500 pounds. But that's, again, more of a tool for advanced lifters. So you got to understand the strength comes in undulations, but if you're not able to do something that you came in and wanted to do, you're missing something in the timing of your recovery. So it might be time to either add lighter days or lighter phases, or it's going to be time for you to go ahead and take a deload. All right, next question. Jason, 2 questions. I recently had a Baker's cyst rupture on the back of my knee. I didn't even know I had one. So right now I can't do any weight training with my legs for I don't know how long. All I can do is ride the stationary bike. How can I stop my legs from atrophying? The only way you can stop your legs from atrophying is to continue to do your cardio. That's what you can do. Or you can do some standing work. Assuming that cyst there on the back of the knee, it's probably not deep internal. Since you can do some cardio, why don't you focus on at least doing your standing work? Meaning, okay, you can't do legs, but ask your doctor if it's okay for you to do barbell rows. Ask if it's okay for you to do the standing press. If you can do those things, then you're okay. Go ahead and do those things. Do the standing press, do the barbell rows. That will help maintain some of your leg mass in the meantime until you're able to train legs again. Also find out, are you able to deadlift? So you need to find out from your doctor specifically what you can't and can't do. What does he consider to be weightlifting with your legs? And if he says nothing, you can't even do your standing work, then okay, listen to your doctor. At a certain point, you've got to ask, is it more important to you to maintain leg muscle that you can always regain after a month or two? You can go in the gym and regain, or is it more important to listen to your doctor and take his advice and make sure that you're healthy and don't have problems with health issues? I'm going to say generally, you're going to want to go with your doctor on this. If he tells you not to do it, don't do it. And if there's nothing you can do about it, then don't sit around worrying about things that you do not have the ability to change. You want to stagnate on something that you're working towards. You want to stagnate on goals. Sit around worrying about shit that you don't have the ability to change. That's a real good way to get nowhere with what you're trying to do. Instead, focus upon what you can do and what you can change, and then when you're able to change the things that you were worried about, then worry about them. But until then, you need to take your focus off of it completely and not think about it, not worry about it, because that worry will build up stress. That worry will cause you to lose muscle faster, and that's not what you want. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.